So I originally had planned to do 2 conservation talks. Then somebody suggested I would do a geology talk. And fortunately, well, I couldn't bring students for this or that political reason, but fortunately I had a few students that just wanted to come so bad that they came on their own, and they decided to take one of my conservation talks, which I'm really excited about. Here's Lachlan Jessup, Nora Kehoe, and Stella Kehoe.
And also, thank you so much for the people that sponsored our Big Fork students to come. So this is what allowed them to come and give these presentations. So thank you so much for those people that sponsored them to come.
All right, hi everyone. As Mr. B said, I'm Nora Kehoe. And so to start things off, the Big Fork High School Cave Club has established photo monitoring in over 80 caves in Montana. And repeating the photo monitoring is actually one of the best ways to track cave resources. Today we'll present the findings of repeat photo monitoring for 9 caves. But before we present, we want to give you just a little bit of information on how we actually establish and repeat the photos and a little bit of background on the caves we'll be presenting on.
So our club uses a point and shoot method for establishing photo monitoring. Photos of sensitive and indicator resources are taken with a handheld camera, and the photo point is located on the map. Years later, we take these laminated copies, and then we go back to the cave, relocate, and then retake the photos. Back in class, our GIS class, we create composites of the original and repeated photos and carefully study them from changes. We typically don't match the frames perfectly, but we try to make them as, fit as good as we can. And usually it's good enough to detect these changes. If you look here, you can see that this stalagmite right here is missing from the original view.
Okay, so for the caves we're presenting on today, 3 of the caves are in the Whitefish Range near Polebridge. 1 of the caves is in the Nevada Range near Avon, and 5 of the caves are in the Little Belt Mountains near Belt and Stanford. The time elapsed between photo repeats was 3 to 11 years.
So in some ways, the caves we're presenting on today are similar. They all have worn and vandalized resources, including substantial graffiti. Based on the graffiti found in these caves, we estimate the decade of first exploration as shown in this chart here. This is important because it signifies that they were explored before the 1970s, and it wasn't until the 70s that the environmental movement and other factors birthed the cave adage. Take nothing but pictures, kill nothing but time, and leave nothing but carefully placed footprints. What this means is that when these caves were first explored, it was common practice for visitors to take a speleothem as a souvenir and write their names on the wall. They all are worn by visitor use and have been for quite some time. However, that doesn't mean that they still aren't cool places to visit.
So this graph right here is the estimated annual visitation of the caves that we're presenting on today. So we have 8 caves. Out of the 8, most of them have a visitation of 100 visitors. However, if you see Lick Creek, because of its ideal location, there's a large number of visitors of about 1,200 per year. This means that in comparison to the other caves, Lick Creek is obviously more worn and has more vandalized resources. So to save time in this presentation, we'll separate the changes from Lick Creek from the 8 other caves.
Now that we've given you a little background on the caves in which we repeated photo monitoring, we will move on to our findings. In Lick Creek, club members repeated 184 photos, which is about 62% of the originals taken when photo monitoring was established. Time elapsed between the original and the repeat was 3 to 5 years. In the other 8 caves, we repeated a total of 608 photos, which is approximately 78% of the photos that were actually repeated. Time elapsed between the original and the repeat was from 7 to 11 years.
Most of the repeat photos in both Lick Creek and the 8 other caves actually showed no changes. On the left, you can see a composite of a low crawlway, which is in Lick Creek Cave. The area is badly mud smeared, but is no worse or better in 2021 than in 2015. 156 or 85% of the repeat photos in Lick Creek showed no changes. On the right is the composite of part of the Moon Milk River, which is located in the bat room of Whitaker Sink Cave. The river is in the same good condition in 2019 as it was in 2012. In the 8 caves, 50 to 100% of the repeat photos showed no changes.
Sorry, I've never used a microphone before, so I need to hold it closer to my face. Changes that were detected in the repeat photos we placed in 2 general groupings: human-caused changes and natural-caused changes. In Lick Creek Cave, natural changes were less prevalent than human-caused changes. We only detected natural changes in 1 photo, which was about only 1% of the repeated photos. So in 2019, you can see that there aren't any fresh wood rat droppings, but there are in 2021. We speculate that the natural changes in Lick Creek Cave may be less prevalent than they are in the other 8 caves due to the higher human visitation, which is hampering wildlife use.
Natural changes in the 8 other caves include changes in the moss and algae growth near the entrances and a decrease in the size of wood rat middens. Changes in moss growth were noticed in 2 caves in the Whitefish Range. The composite on the left shows a slight decrease in the amount of moss at the entrance of Yakinnikak 3 cave. It's right about here where there was some up here, but there isn't anymore. The composite on the right shows an increase in algal growth just inside the entrance of Ophir Cave. The decrease in moss at the entrances and the increase in algal growth could be a natural cycle or could possibly be attributed to human-caused climate change. As the climate would become more warm and dry, moss would have a harder time growing, and with fewer cloudy days, the sun would be getting into the cave entrances more, allowing for the algae to grow more.
Perhaps the most dramatic natural change that we detected in these caves was a significant decrease in the size and thickness of wood rat middens. On the left is a photo showing the decrease of a midden from 2012 to 2019 in Granite Mountain Cave. And on the right, you can see the decrease in the size of a midden from 2012 to 2021, which is in Yakinnikak Cave number 3. Originals and repeats were taken in the same season. The decreases could be part of a natural cycle or could possibly be attributed to a statewide problem facing wood rats, such as an infectious disease, something like the white nose syndrome for bats. It is of note that in 2012, when originally establishing the repeat photo monitoring in several caves in the Little Belts, we noticed a fresh number of wood rat carcasses.
So there was only one natural change, which was not related to the biological processes in the 8 caves. In Yakinnikak 2, you can see there, the circle, there's a photon-covered rock, and it was undermined in the stream and then it fell down a few feet. We suspect that these types of non-biological natural changes are rare because the processes to make caves and deposit speleothems takes place over hundreds, if not millions of years.
In all the caves we discussed in this presentation, human-caused changes are minor. Human-caused changes can be grouped into management activities intended to conserve cave resources or caver actions that damaged resources. This slide shows an area in Lick Creek where graffiti was removed. 6% of repeat photos in Lick Creek detected areas where graffiti was removed. Graffiti remover projects over the past 15 years have removed a substantial amount of spray-painted graffiti from Lick Creek Cave.
In the 8 caves, only 1.5% of repeat photos showed where management activities improved resource conditions. The composite on the left shows where a trail was installed to prevent visitors from walking on fragile floor features in Granite Mountain Cave. In Ophir Cave, repeat photos showed where a cage was installed to prevent visitors from falling down a man-made shaft inside of the cave. Photos of the trail and the cage only accounted for about 1% of the repeat photos in the 8 caves. The composite on the right shows where graffiti was removed from Dry Wolf Cave. Only 0.5% of repeat photos in the 8 caves showed where graffiti was actually removed. However, it would be pertinent to note that unlike Lick Creek, much of this graffiti is not spray painted and it could be considered historic.
Human-caused changes that were, there was also human-caused changes that damaged resources. However, in both Lick Creek and the others, these damaged resources were minor and rare. This composite shows additional mud smearing that was detected on the rock surface in Lick Creek Cave. Only 3% of the repeat photos in Lick Creek and only 2% of the repeated photos in the others detected additional mud smearing. So in Lick Creek Cave, it's difficult to detect this additional mud smearing just because most of the surfaces are already heavily smeared with mud. And in the other caves, a lot of the mud smearing was also difficult to detect just because it was more confined to like major traffic ways.
Another human-caused change detected by repeat photos that damaged resources was new graffiti. Inlet Creek repeat photo monitoring did not detect any new graffiti. A search was conducted for new spray-painted graffiti in areas not yet photographed, but none was observed. In the other caves, 2 new graffiti were detected. This only represents about 2% of the repeat photos in all of the 8 other caves. The composite shows new graffiti detected in Dry Wolf Cave. Both of the detected graffiti were scratched into rock surfaces.
This map here shows the distribution of changes detected by repeat photo monitoring in Inlet Creek. You can see here there is only one natural change, and human-caused changes are randomly distributed throughout the cave.
Okay, so this is a map that shows the distribution of changes detected in repeat photo monitoring in Granite Mountain Cave. So notice that all of these yellow dots that are near the entrance, those are driven by wood rat activities, and this is a common theme throughout all of the caves. And then there's all these red dots right here. These are human-caused changes, and this was because there was being a trail installed.
So to wrap up our presentation, we wanted to reiterate a couple important natural changes detected through our work. First, there was only one natural change detected in Lick Creek Cave. In the 8 other caves, natural changes included the distribution of moss and algae growth near the entrances of 3 caves, and a dramatic decrease in the size and thickness of wood rat middens in 5 other caves.
In summary of human-caused changes, graffiti removal was the most prevalent human-caused change in Lick Creek. Human-caused changes in the 8 other caves were minor. However, they included the installation of a trail, installation of a cage to prevent visitors from falling down a shaft, and 2 new scratched into rock graffiti. Mud smearing in Lick Creek and the 8 other caves was minor. However, again, it was difficult to detect because most of the surfaces were already badly smeared with mud.
To close with a few more conclusions that we derived from our repeat photo monitoring, the limited amount of natural changes in Lick Creek Cave indicates that wildlife use of the cave might be inhibited just due to the high human visitation. Decreases in rat middens in the 5 other caves suggest that wood rats might be facing some problems.
Mud smearing in Lick Creek indicates that damages to resources may be saturated. Because the surfaces are already so badly mud smeared, it is difficult for them to become more severely damaged. However, graffiti removal and the fact that no new graffiti was detected suggests that resource conditions can be improved. In the other 8 caves, limited mud smearing and the occurrence of only 2 new scratched into rock graffiti suggests that resource damage may be at an equilibrium. That is to say, unless something happens to increase visitation or another use of the cave develops. In the future, resource damage will continue to be very minor. And that is all we have for you guys. Thank you very much.